Hey, Chad, you want to watch a movie?
Yeah.
How about...
No, not again.
Okay, what about...
I just saw that last week.
Okay, oh, I got it.
Wait. You want me to watch what?
So, what'd you think of Indian Summer?
I didn't know that they were remaking The Breakfast Club.
Fair. Welcome to You Want Me to Watch What? Where Chad and I present movies to the other that they haven't seen. It is my turn, and I chose the 1993 film Indian Summer. It's a comedy drama written and directed by Mike Binder. So the movie starts off in 1972, where we see Uncle Lou Handler. He is the owner of Camp Tamaqua, and he is like the guy who runs it and whatever. And he's bringing a group of kids through the woods, and they stop, and there's this moose. Which, okay, but to be in the wild and encounter a moose without protection is a sight to behold.
It is the last of America's megafauna.
It is. It really is. Fun fact, orcas are a natural predator of the moose.
Yeah.
That is a wild statement, but it's true.
That's wild.
Anyway, fast forward 2 decades later. We're now firmly in the 90s. And 7 former campers, the kids from earlier, have been invited by Uncle Lou back to camp. They don't know why, but you know what? It was a great time in their lives, so they're going to go. So we've got Matt, who is a clothing designer, and his cousin and business partner, Brad. Matt's wife, Kelly. All went to the same camp. Matt's ex-girlfriend, Jennifer. The recently widowed Beth, the carefree bachelor Jamie, who also brings his much younger girlfriend, Gwen, and then we have Jack. Jack was kicked out of camp. He's like this, I can't believe, they never knew why, just one day he was put on the boat and sent off. And they've all mostly maintained friendships over these 2 decades. Like Matt and Jennifer were dating at camp and then kind of broke off, and then Matt married Kelly, but they're still friends with Jennifer to a degree, and just they all still talk to each other. Jack, however, has been kind of an enigma and stayed away for a while, mostly because he didn't have anything to say. So they reunite, and it's like going back home. Things are the same, but different. There's conversations of, I remember this place being bigger. Mm-hmm. When in fact, it's the same size. You just grew up. And so over the course of the movie, we are treated to several kind of subplots. The uncertainty in the relationship between Matt and Kelly. They've kind of grown apart, as marriages sometimes do. And Matt's renewed romantic feelings for Jennifer. Not necessarily a good thing. Beth working through the trauma of her husband's death a year ago in an accident. Jamie trying to hold on to his youth/single happy life with no intentions of starting a family, but Gwen, who is 21, is resistant to that idea and kind of wants a family, and Jamie is just very much treating her like a toy almost to be played with and showed off. And they all kind of fall back into old habits and routines at the camp. There's a tradition of a Shrek, which is a gag, a prank, or whatever. Mm-hmm. And Brad was like the king of the Shreks. Well, the other guys start playing pranks on him, short sheeting the bed, putting toothpaste in it, dipping his hand in hot water while he's asleep, taking all the toilet paper, that sort of thing. So there are hysterical moments in this where you see these grown men acting like teenagers again.
That is something that only men would do.
Only men would do, because the girls, and Uncle Lou is very strict about this. Like, yeah, no, boys in the boys' cabin, girls in the girls' cabin. We're doing this just like we used to in the golden days. And so the boys are acting like teenagers again, and the girls are just being women. They're just talking and, making it through life. We come to find out that the reason Uncle Lou invited them all here is because he's closing the camp and he wanted one more grand send-off. He's closing the camp not for financial issues or anything. He can't relate to the kids anymore. He's been doing this since probably the 50s. And he cannot connect to the younger generation coming in now. And he even says, camps like this go away very quickly. We've had a very long run, and I'm very happy for that. We also find out why Jack was kicked out of camp. Well, as he got older, he became kind of one of the counselors or, older kids to help out, and he heard stories that Lou hired somebody sight unseen to be a counselor at the camp. The guy shows up on the bus. He's a black gentleman, and Lou, and it being like the 50s, 60s, early 60s, whatever, there was still a lot of racial tension in the world. Mm-hmm. And Lou decided, I'm sorry, this isn't going to work. Here's your bus fare back. Here's a week's worth of pay. I'm sorry. Which went against everything that Lou had been teaching these kids about equality and all that stuff. So Jack took Lou's 1946 boxing trophy, like from Michigan State, and buried it. Because if anything was going to get Lou, it was going to be taking that. And so Lou kicked him out. It was buried on camp, so it never left. And Jack spends most of the movie trying to remember where it was and digging holes, and he finally finds it. After talking to Lou, and Lou basically saying, yeah, I goofed up. If I could redo one day in my life, it would be that moment. And I would do it differently. So we see all of these characters growing from what they were to kind of where they are now. Gwen finally has it out and tells Jamie, this isn't working. I'm not your toy. Go play. She stands up for herself, which is good. Matt and Kelly rekindle their relationship. Matt and Jennifer ultimately agree that being friends is probably better than everything else. Mm-hmm. And Brad pulls a very good prank on everybody. At the end of the movie, Beth and Jamie realize that they have feelings for each other, and they probably always had, but other things got in the way. So they decide, well, maybe we can try this. And so Brad runs into everybody and says, guys, you got to come check this out. They all run down to the dock where they see Jack and Beth rowing out on the lake together and kissing. At which point, Brad unties the dock and they start slowly drifting out on the lake, the whole group of them. Which we are then treated to Brad, played by Kevin Pollak, doing this fantastic dancing scene up the hill. At the end of the movie, the week's over, everybody's going to go home. Jack and Beth decide that they want to run the camp, and Lou gives it to him. He's set, so he gives it to him. Everybody seems to be in a slightly better place, or at least has a lot of stuff to think about to be a better person. And the movie ends with a new group of kids running up the hill, being greeted by Jack and Beth as they are about to start their summer. So a couple of things about the movie. Camp Tamaqua is a real place. Mm-hmm. It is still a summer camp in Canada that is still going. Uncle Lou Handler, was a real person. He was the person behind the camp. And this is a fictionalized version of him, obviously. The writer and director, Mike Binder, he went to Camp Tamaqua. And this was kind of not a retelling of events, but sort of an idolized version of the camp and life and all of that stuff. A bit part, kind of the camp's handyman or whatever, Stick, is played by Sam Raimi. He also went to the camp and is friends with the writer and director. Sam Raimi, of course, of Evil Dead fame, the guy who wrote all that stuff. So having rewatched it for this, I saw at the end credits filmed on location at Camp Tamaqua, and I'm like, what? So sure enough, it is a real place. It is still going. You can rent it for parties, events, whatever. It's a thing. Like, who knew? So that is enough of me talking. What did you think of the movie?
I didn't think much of it.
And that's fair. That's fair.
So I am the only millennial in the world that just does not like Breakfast Club.
That's fine.
And so this movie has 9 characters, of which 3 of them are important, but the other 6 are necessary in order to have a movie. And I just, whenever those 6 were on, I'm just really wish we could just get back to Brad and Beth, or not Brad, but Jack and Beth and Uncle Lou and the transition that's happening. That's a good part of the movie for me. But if they did that, then the whole movie would be a grand total of like 18 minutes long. It is a love letter to nostalgia. It is a beautiful, in the same way that A Christmas Story is a love letter to nostalgia.
Yeah.
This one for summer camp instead of, childhood Christmases.
Fair.
The characters are fine. The boys, the actors who play these grown-ups are fine. Alan Arkin plays Uncle Lou. Alan Arkin is a treasure. He's an amazing actor. And Diane Lane and Bill Paxton and Kevin Pollak are wonderful in their roles. I don't know that I could tell you what any of the other people have ever been in without going to their IMDb page and going, oh, that one.
Kimberly Williams. She was Gwen, the girlfriend. She was the daughter in the Steve
Father
Martin
of the Bride.
Father of the Bride. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. She was in. Yeah. She is also in 10th Kingdom.
Yeah. Sam Raimi spent a lot of time behind the camera. He did The Evil Dead.
Yeah. He's also not important to the movie.
He's also not important to the movie.
Outside of a 45-second comedy bit in which he drops some luggage in the lake and has to try to get it out.
Yeah.
This is one of those movies that I watch and I say to myself, this is well made. It is competently shot. Everyone involved in this is doing their job and is doing it well. And I will probably never watch it again.
And that is fine.
And it is this is a laundry movie to me. If somebody wanted to watch this, I'd be like, absolutely. I'm going to take care of some clothes, so I'll be in and out doing some folding. But absolutely.
That's fine. Did you at least enjoy the end credits to rolling over Hello Mutta, Hello Fada?
I noticed that they did, but I turned it off before.
Oh, because they play that song in its entirety.
Yeah. I
So at
heard that
least,
they
yeah.
were doing Hello Mudda Hello Fun. I was like, oh, that's fun, because they allude to it earlier in the soundtrack.
Yeah, they play snippets of it, especially when Stick is trying to do things.
But, and I don't know. I wanted to like it, and it's hard to be funny. It's hard to really line out. It boils down to there wasn't anything to overcome. It's an exploration of characters. And I like slow character-driven movies. I really do. But usually those characters have to overcome something besides themselves.
Fair.
But, like, to me, there's this really great scene that should have been between Matt and Brad that didn't materialize well enough. Because those are the two that were business partners, right? Cousins and business partners. And we get this really short thing where Matt's like, well, you know, I'm trapped in this partnership and we're cousins and, you know, you're really great at this and I want to go do other stuff. And it's like, that should have been fireworks. There should have been, that should have been a great scene. And it just didn't, it kind of landed flat.
Yeah.
It's kind of like the scene with Matt and Kelly and Jennifer. Like, there should have been a really great scene in there where the three of them kind of hash out the stuff. And what we got is, like, 2 scenes of lukewarm.
Yeah.
But when we get, you know, Beth, you know, talking about, especially with Jack when she's talking about her being widowed and, like, everyone's treating me like something's wrong, or it's like, that's a good, well done scene. I liked that one. I wanted more for a
Fair.
movie that seemed really long because it was full of a lot of not a lot. I wanted there to be a little bit more exploration. If they're going to make the point of the movie the exploration of the characters, then we got to get real deep into the nitty gritty of it.
Yeah. Well, you're not the only one because it currently holds a 58% on Rotten Tomatoes. So, you know.
Well, and I will say to anybody who asks me is like, well, what do you think of Indian Summer? I am firmly in the this is not for me. But if you like The Breakfast Club, I think that you will like Indian Summer. Because it's another case of it's a character exploration. You know, you've got a group of people in a spot that are getting to know one another differently. You know, anyway, that's where I am. I wish I could be a little bit more uplifting about it.
Well, I mean, and that's okay. That's why we have these conversations.
That's true.
I mean, and for me, a lot of it, like, you know, this is a nostalgia movie, being nostalgic for summer camp. I remember watching this growing up, and so I'm nostalgic for the movie. I never went to summer camp. I hated going to Boy Scouts and all that stuff. This is like an idealized version that I could have gotten behind. Like, okay. You know, I see stuff like this. I'm like, oh, maybe camping is fun. And then like my Rolodex clicks. Is like, no, it's not. It's like, oh yeah, you're right. It's not. No, it's not. This is cinema. This is movie. This is fiction. Of course, it looks fun. Yeah. But, you know, overall, I like it. But like you said, I don't think it's for everybody. And if you certainly like movies like The Breakfast Club, absolutely see it. But, laundry movie works. You don't have to sit through the entire thing. There's certainly points where you can walk in and out of. Yeah. So, you know, see it from me, laundry movie from Chad, which is cool.
Yeah.
All right, well, I think that makes it your turn.
I believe it does.